Hey there, let's talk about radish today. It's a great crop to have in your arsenal on a small farm. We grow some radish here. There's a lot of other uses for radish on a farm. So I'll talk all about the ways that we grow it, how it's been successful for us, how we sell it, all that kind of stuff, and then some other things you could be using radish for on your farm. I'm in the greenhouse here, and that's just because that's where this bed of radish is. And first I want to talk about how we grow radish at our farm in terms of like a market garden setting, and then later we'll talk more about some other uses for radish. But first, let's talk about this. I like to grow French breakfast radish. That's the variety. There are a lot of different radishes out there. Some really cool ones, really different colors, shapes, all that kind of stuff. But I find French breakfast radish to be great because it's a little bit unique of a product, and for people that haven't seen it before, it's a little bit intriguing and helps sell them a little bit better. But some of the great things about radish is that they grow super quick, and they're direct seeded crops, and they are great in the springtime, especially when you just got to get something out quick. Then usually you see that early in the spring. You see a lot of people selling radish. So French breakfast radish, when I do radish, we seed it with the Jang seeder, and I use the F24 roller. F as in Frank, F24, and I have a 14 in the front and a 10 in the back, and I do 5 rows. And that seems to be the spacing that I like. I've tried some other spacings, and they're either too close together in terms of in-row spacing, or also, you know, too many rows and they get too crowded. Another great thing about radish here is that you can thin harvest them. And so what you do is the first week you have some that are up to size, you can just go through and pull out the bigger ones and then leave the smaller ones. And the next week you come back through and those will be up in size too. So for a few weeks on end, you could be harvesting out of the same bed. So let me show you what these guys look like. All right, so here are those radishes, and to harvest them, you just pull them out. It's pretty easy. And these actually have been in here a little bit too long. We had a couple of slower weeks, and so, you know, some of these have been in here for a while, but super easy to harvest. You just pull them out, and then we'll go rinse them off later. And as you see me, I can kind of come through and just pick out the ones that look good, the bigger ones, and then you just bunch it up with a rubber band, and you get a bunch of radish. And when we go to wash these in a little bit, I'll sort of show you the size of the bunch and, you know, what we're selling it for and all that. But it can be a great crop. It's super quick, and we need a you know, an easy turnover crop. It's direct seeded, as I said. We did put this in drip in here recently, but if you they'd grow great with overhead, just so you can get it to germinate. Otherwise, you're probably gonna have to hand water it. But yeah, that's what we got going on here. We've gotten huge yields. I don't even know the numbers off the top of my head. Probably, you know, 150 bunches, maybe I don't know, maybe more than that. We could probably get out of one bed, and so, you know, big yields. Radish is not the best selling crop, and if you offer it too often with you know, your farm stand, like we do a farm stand here, or in your CSA, people will kind of get tired of it. It's something that people don't eat every week, so, you know, if you give it to them week after week after week, they're gonna be like, what do I do with all these radishes? But it's a good burst early in the spring. It's a lot of color, they look really nice, and we sell it with the greens on it. People can eat the greens too, but they look like a really nice fresh crop, and the flavor is just unbelievable, especially the French breakfast. I find it to be a little bit more mild and more pleasant. One thing that's helpful if you are selling to, let's say, a CSA, you know, some sort of vegetable box, something like that, is to give people ideas for how to cook them too. I'm not a chef or even a very great cook. I try, but, you know, there's ways to roast them. There's ways, you know, obviously in salads and things like that, but, you know, you can also pickle them. There's a lot of great things out there. So if you can come up with some recipes from somewhere and hand those off to your customers, that can go a long way for people to feel like they can keep using the radish. I think the first round they're gonna be excited and put in everything. They're gonna be like, all right, I got enough radish. So anyways, lots of things to think about with that. Another thing radish can be great for is for cover crop, and it's also known as what's called a tillage radish. And daikon is a great example. They grow really massive, if you've ever seen daikon radish. And they're great for breaking up hard, compacted soil. So you can do that as a cover crop or mixed into a cover crop mix, and so that'll help. Because as the big root of the radish grows into the ground, it will sort of break up the ground and help, you know, make it a little bit looser. So, you know, tillage radish can be definitely used for cover crop. So as I mentioned, the yields are huge, and sometimes you can have too much radish for your sales outlets, and so that can be a problem sometime. And one thing you can do about that, as well as some other things that this is helpful for, is doing some interplanting. And some of the benefits of that are you don't get a full bed, which actually might work out better for your yields if that makes sense for what you need to sell. But the other thing is you can get creative with it with the interplanting. And so let me talk about this example here. And I'm trying to embrace interplanting more this year. We had a bunch of extra lettuce starts from one of our beds. And so we just, instead of just tossing them, we planted them in one row and then we just planted radish on the side. And the timing is probably gonna be pretty close because radish, when it's warm out are about 4 weeks, I would say. And the lettuce is 4 to 5 weeks after transplanting, so the timing should work out pretty well. But you can interplant radish in all different situations. You could have tomatoes and you can interplant radish down the side and they'll be done by the time the tomatoes start shading out the ground cover. Anywhere you have like a spot, you can rip down a line or two of radish and get a little extra yield. So don't be afraid to interplant radish with a bunch of other stuff, and it's nice because you'll get a little bit of yield and you may not be overwhelmed with too much radish. So kind of a win-win there if you have too much yield or if you have extra bed space. So you can definitely get creative with interplanting radish. Another thing radish can be used for is microgreens. Radish microgreens are super popular. They're super hardy. They grow really fast. They were definitely a crop I was growing at home when I was doing microgreens at my farm. We're not doing any microgreens here, but I've done a lot of videos on microgreens. I'll put a link up here for a playlist and down below if you want to watch it at the end of the video. Lots of great information there. It's a super quick crop. You can grow it in like 7 or 8 days, good yields. Restaurants like it because you can grow a couple different varieties and mix up the colors and stuff. So great for microgreens as well. So this is that bed of radish that I was just talking about, and we've probably harvested off this for, I don't know, 4 weeks, and we're at the point now where we just got to get these out because the quality's starting to go down and we need the bed for something else. But you can see, how many radish are still left here even after harvesting that much. So big yields. Well, these are French breakfast radishes. We just washed these. You can see they're still wet. Yeah, they're really pretty. They do sell pretty well. We just band them up as you guys see here, and then just spray them out with the, on our root wash station, and let them dry for a bit. Sometimes we'll put them under the drying screen if it's still open, if it doesn't have greens on it, and then we'll put them in the fridge. And we sell them in bunches like this for $3, so that's our pricing. Seems to work pretty well. Let's also talk about for a second, when you grow radish. And I think that you can grow them year round. The problem in the summer is you get some insect pressure, like flea beetles and stuff. It is a brassica, so if you do grow it in the summertime, you probably do want to cover it with insect netting. The other problem about growing it in the summer is they grow really fast and they get really bitter and spicy. So like if the radishes are growing in the middle of the heat, they're gonna get really spicy and maybe either inedible or just like really intense and maybe will be not pleasing for a lot of people. But you can grow them year round. As I said, they're great to throw in like early in the springtime just to get a quick crop, and also interplanting and all the things I mentioned. So anyways, guys, everything I can tell you guys about radish that I know and from my experience. So hopefully this is helpful. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I was trying to get out of her way.
It's gonna be in the bloopers now.
No. Because she was having trouble getting around.
Yeah. He's gonna find out eventually.
Huh?
He's gonna find out when he looks at it.
He's going to see you.
I can't.
No, he'll hear me.